Okay, hello Bio, this is Mr. B, and we are starting a new chapter with this video, and this chapter is going to focus on cellular respiration. And just looking at this, you might get it confused with just the fact that it might be breathing. That's what we usually think of when we think of respiration. But when we think of cellular respiration, this is going to be the process. It's obviously going to happen at a cellular level, the process of the cell taking food and turning it into ATP. So this is how humans, being one example, are going to take in food and can make ATP. Our last chapter was about photosynthesis, and that was plants taking in energy to make their own food. So now we're going to look at how we as humans, as other types of heterotrophic organisms, do it. And so to start off, we're going to look at the different chemical pathways. So that's what the title of the first section is, are chemical pathways, and that's just going to be the different ways that chemicals, again, are kind of broken down and stored and made into energy that we can use. So to start off, food serves as the source of raw materials for the cells in the body and as a source of energy. I think we all know that if we don't eat, we get tired. I think I've seen that in plenty of you in class. So food serves as the source of raw materials for the cells in the body and as a source of energy. And when we look at food, breaking it down on kind of a molecular level, 1 gram of the sugar glucose, when burned in the presence of oxygen, releases 3,811 calories of heat energy. So calories is just a way to measure heat. And when we think of a calorie, we usually think of it as how much food we take in, and kind of breaking it down inside of our cell, a calorie is the amount of energy needed to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water 1 degree Celsius. So we usually think of a calorie as we eat calories, but this is kind of our scientific way of looking at things. It's the amount of energy needed to raise the temperature 1 gram of water 1 degree Celsius. And then cells don't burn glucose, instead they gradually release the energy from glucose and other food compounds. So when we talk about this burning right here, when burning the glucose, it's not technically burned, instead it's a gradual release of energy and other food compounds, and this process begins with a pathway called glycolysis. So glycolysis releases a small amount of energy. So glycolysis is the breaking down of glucose. If you look at the beginning, GLY, that sounds a lot like glucose. And then lysis is a term for mean to break things down. So breaking down glucose is glycolysis. And so after glycolysis occurs, if oxygen is present, it's followed by the Krebs cycle and the electron transport chain. And altogether, again, these are just introducing these terms to us. We're going to talk about each one more in depth. So together, when we have glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, and the electron transport chain, we have a process called cellular respiration. And when we look at what is cellular respiration, I gave you a definition a little bit earlier. It's a process that releases energy by breaking down glucose and other food molecules in the presence of oxygen. So that is how humans, being the example of a heterotrophic organism, break down our food to make energy, or to release energy. Remember, plants do it by photosynthesis, we do it by cellular respiration. And the equation for cellular respiration is 6 oxygens plus glucose gives us carbon dioxide plus water and energy. And if you notice, this is the exact opposite of the equation for photosynthesis. So humans, we take in oxygen and glucose, and we release carbon dioxide, water, and energy. Whereas plants, they take in carbon dioxide, water, energy, and then energy being the sunlight, and then they make oxygen and then glucose. So that's just kind of a neat little correlation between us and autotrophic organisms. We use the exact same materials, or the exact same materials are used, but they're kind of almost complete opposite ways. So that is our equation for cellular respiration, remember that. And each of the 3 stages of cellular respiration captures some of the chemical energy available in food molecules and uses it to produce ATP. So again, I said we have our 3 cycles, our glycolysis, Krebs cycle, electron transport chain. We're not going to remember the individual steps, we're just going to need to know kind of what the result of each one of those is, and each part plays an integral role to produce ATP. And so Here is just a quick overview of cellular respiration to wrap this video up. I'm just going to note that glycolysis takes place in the cytoplasm, so you can see here in this picture, glycolysis is taking place outside, whereas a Krebs cycle and electron transport chain take place in the mitochondria. So remember, we said the mitochondria was the powerhouse of the cell, and we're going to get into exactly why we call it that. So that is it for the first video. Let me know if you have any questions.